Hi everybody, Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 4 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here today to talk about the subject of happiness. Something I think we all want and something that's getting a lot of press today. Matter of fact, I was in one of those Hudson News stands that you see at the airport. And I was about to get on a plane and I was looking for something to read. And so I was kind of looking over the magazines, and way up at the top, where you had to stand on your tippy toes to reach it, and then you had to be about 6 feet to do it, was this magazine called Live Happy. I thought it was very interesting looking, and so I got it, the premier issue, interesting concept, started reading it, and found some very useful, very, very positive things. What I also found, however, was that part of me was thinking, boy, I can see how some people would be reading this magazine and going, wait a minute. You just can't go around being happy all the time. Nothing would get done. This is this, kind of fluffy, airy-fairy, psychobabble stuff. And that's the problem with the world today. We need more serious people. In other words, I find that for some people, they might distrust happiness. Now, what's fascinating is about these same folks is they often have a tendency to trust fear. So the quote that goes along with this particular video is that trusting fear while distrusting happiness might create a less than happy life. And I think what we want to recognize is, why would people do that? Why would people trust fear over happiness? Well, for some folks, they were actually raised in a situation where happiness was dangerous, and fear is what they needed to have in their mind to stay safe. Their family was dysfunctional, or the parents were abusive, or whatever was happening, and as a child, we're very vulnerable. And we can't always go around being totally happy, even though that's our natural state. Children are born to be happy. Just look at a very small child before they've learned to be afraid. Hey, happiness and fun and joy is their mission on the planet. But often they find out that that's a dangerous state, and that it is not seen as a positive factor by those in their environment. Matter of fact, it makes the environment more dangerous, and so they learn to trust fear and mistrust happiness. Understandable, it might even help them survive that particular situation. But the problem is, often we carry that into adulthood. And while as a child we are very vulnerable to our environment, and sometimes we have to watch out for things in order to be safe or safer, as an adult, we don't want to use fear, in my humble opinion, to create the life we want. Because now, as an adult, we have more opportunities to make choices that we didn't have as children. And those choices, when they're motivated by fear or mistrust of happiness, often create this kind of frightened, mistrustful, not very happy life. So if happiness is something you want, what I would encourage you to do is to create a perspective around it that actually has you moving toward it and something you can embrace. There's a new movement out in positive psychology called authentic happiness. Martin Seligman, who wrote a lot of wonderful books, is one of the proponents of this, as is Barbara Fredrickson. Very wonderful folks who are doing a lot of research into the concept of happiness. So rather than having psychology look at what's wrong with us and how to fix that, these folks are looking at, okay, what are our strengths and how do we bring those to life? And what is a meaningful life? And how can that make a difference in our experience of life? And they make a distinction between what they call situational happiness, or something that just feels good in the moment, and authentic happiness, where it's really about using our strengths, our natural talents, to create the life we want, and then actually even using that to help others. The research they've found is that is wonderful, because what it actually does is it engages a very specific part of the brain. For those of you who follow my Life from the Top of the Mind philosophy, you know that that's a big part of what I teach, how to engage the clear, confident, creative, happy, meaningful part of who we are, this upper 80% of the brain, versus that lower 20% of the brain that is about fear and watch out and don't take a risk and be careful and worry about the future as a way of solving problems. So if you have found that worrying about the future or worrying about your life or just fear in general is not helping you create the life you want, it's not making the statements you want to make about who you are. You would not recommend that to someone you love. I encourage you to consider creating a perspective on happiness that isn't dangerous, that isn't something that is non-productive. Matter of fact, that it actually accesses the most productive, clear, confident, creative part of who we are. And begin to practice that in life. Because when we approach life as if happiness is a component that we're wanting to engage and to create as a part of who we are, then that begins to infuse our work and our relationships, our present moment thinking. That creates a certain perspective in our brain. It actually changes the chemical makeup of our body from cortisol and adrenaline and noradrenaline to endorphins and serotonin and dopamine, all the stuff that allows us to think clearly and accomplish more. So if that's something you want, I would encourage you to examine your particular perspective on happiness. If it's something that you embrace and you look to do, then you might want to get this magazine. I think you'll find it very, very valuable. If it's something you distrust, you still might want to get this magazine because it does a really nice job of looking at the science behind authentic happiness. I hope you're finding these videos meaningful. If so, please hit the like button. As you know, YouTube and Google really determine how they refer people to certain videos based on how many people like them, what kind of comments you leave. Please leave comments. I read all the comments. If you have a question, put that down there and I'll respond to it as well. In the meantime, here is to you living a happy life, making happiness something that is an aspect of life you want to nurture and create. Here is to you bringing more clarity about that, confidence in your ability to do that, and creativity to everything you do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.